Tonight, a 360 investigation on just how easy it is for identity thieves to steal your hard-earned tax refund. It's a problem so big and so difficult to track, the IRS does not even know how much money it's actually paid out to criminals already. Now, right now, this very moment, you could be a target of this fraud. Someone could be filing a tax return in your name using fake income information and then collecting the refund on a debit card. It's happening across the country. Some police departments said the IRS isn't doing enough to stop it. Randy Kay investigates.
This is a known gang member. Put your hands on the car.
We've just rolled up on what police say is evidence of one of the biggest and easiest frauds in America to pull off. A crime hidden on a piece of plastic, a debit card.
He's got the cards, he just purchased them, it looks like.
Those debit cards, police say, are used to take advantage of fast tax refunds from the IRS. Here's how it works. The thieves are stealing those refunds by stealing people's social security numbers from insiders at hospitals, doctors' offices, even car dealerships, any place where you have to give your personal information. They then use the stolen information to go online and file a tax return, making up the income the person earned for the year. The IRS then puts the refund money on a debit card purchased by the thieves.
See, this is what they're buying. See, green dot money cards, Target. He went to Target and spent $600, and he paid with a debit card.
What'd you get, $1,000 for Christmas in gift cards?
Police say the man they've pulled over, who's already facing identity theft charges in another case, is a known member of the infamous Money Avenue gang, which specializes in this kind of fraud. Not surprisingly, he's in no mood to talk.
I'm just curious what you do for work that you drive such a fancy car.
I don't know nothing about that.
You don't know nothing about that? Can you tell me if you know anything about identity theft happening around here?
I don't know nothing about that.
Are you involved in any of the tax fraud?
I don't know nothing about that.
Detectives Craig Catlin and Rocky Festa of the North Miami Beach, Florida Police Department will later charge him with buying these gift cards with stolen tax return money. Police say here's the same guy on video at Target, using a debit card in someone else's name with the money from a fraudulent tax refund on it. And police say he used that debit card to buy those gift cards that were on the front seat of the car.
Come on, man.
He's arrested for marijuana possession, but police later charged him with grand theft in connection with tax refund fraud.
How easy is it to do this?
The fraudulent refunds are so easy, it's like the federal government putting crack cocaine in candy machines. It's that easy.
The criminals cash in those debit cards as quickly as possible, showing off their riches with expensive luxury cars. They flaunt fancy watches, diamond pendants worth $55,000, and other jewelry, this one inscribed with the words, "Money Hungry." Just a few hundred miles north, up in Tampa, police estimate the fraud approaches a staggering $500 million in the last 2 years.
That's over $2,000 in cash.
Just one example of what is happening nationwide. Police Chief Jane Castor says the IRS efforts to curtail it aren't working.
I don't think that I have ever seen this magnitude of fraud that is just wide open. It's wide open, and there just doesn't seem to be much being done about it.
For its part, the IRS identified $6.5 billion in tax refund fraud related to identity theft last year.
I'd like to hear the other side of that equation, too, and an estimation of how much got through.
That's what we wanted to know, too. Just how much fraud has gone undetected. After weeks of asking, the IRS's Deputy Commissioner, Beth Tucker, couldn't give us an answer.
So just to be clear, I know you can tell us how much has been caught, but the IRS can't say how much of this fraudulent money has ended up in criminals' hands.
We process 140 million tax returns at IRS on a given year. We're doing a balancing act because one thing we want to do is get refunds out to the hands of legitimate taxpayers as quickly as possible and with this little intrusion. But for the actual, size of the problem, we'd probably need to get back to you with a number.
We're still waiting on that number. Typical, says Tampa Mayor Bob Buckhorn, who is furious with the IRS.
Has the IRS disappointed you and your city?
I don't know. I haven't seen them. As far as I'm concerned, they're missing in action. They have not been helpful. They have not been a player. They have not taken responsibility for their side of the enforcement.
Is the IRS missing in action in Tampa? What's your response?
No, the IRS is not. In fact, we have significantly increased the amount of resources we've devoted to identity theft, which is a heinous crime.
Just 1 week after our interview, the IRS sent a team to meet with Tampa and North Miami Beach police officials. Law enforcement tells us there's a simple solution to curbing much of the fraud. Don't allow the refunds to be put on debit cards.
Why hasn't the IRS stopped that?
Not every taxpayer has a bank account. And so the debit cards that are issued by a third-party provider are a legitimate way for taxpayers to get their refund.
And the fraudsters, they know time is on their side. The faster the IRS sends out the returns, the sooner they get some hard-working taxpayers' cash.
It's an underground epidemic. It has taken the place of street-level drug dealing.
Are these your cards?
It is a very, very scary proposition.
So, Randy, where's the guy we saw arrested in your story? Is he still on the street?
No, in fact, he is in jail awaiting a court date, but he hasn't yet entered a plea, Anderson, for the marijuana possession or the grand theft. And as far as the victim in that case, her identity, her information was out there because her purse had been stolen, so somehow her information ended up in his hands. It's that easy.
What about all those victims? How do they get their refunds?
It is such a nightmare for them because the burden is really on them. They have to now prove to the IRS that their identity was stolen and that someone filed taxes in their name. And this can take up to more than a year for them to get their refund back. Now, the Treasury Inspector General says that the IRS isn't realistic about giving victims a time frame. He's also criticized the IRS for even the improvements that they've made, he says, have fallen short. The good news, Anderson, is that the victims do eventually get their refund. The IRS pays twice, once to the fraudster and once to the victim, but it is a nightmare process for them to go through.
That's unbelievable. Randy, appreciate it. Randy, thanks.